Right, so onto the Dutch Revolt now. Again, one of the most complex ones. I'm going to leave the end bit to the Spanish Armada session, okay, because I think it connects quite nicely. But normally this is in three parts, okay, from 66 to 68, and then from around 76 to 84, 85, and then 85 up to the Armada, okay. So again, as usual, make notes as you go, and I'll continue. Okay, so we know from previous sessions that the Netherlands is under control of the Spanish. Now, Protestantism is spreading, and the Spanish want to stamp this out in the Netherlands because they see themselves as like the defenders of the faith, the leading Catholics. They can't have their own kind of territory start becoming Protestant. So Netherlands were normally quite happy because, well, not happy, but Spanish didn't really get involved in the ruling of the Netherlands, so the Netherlands were happy to just crack on. This is what autonomy means. Autonomy means self-rule. So they had a lot of autonomy in the Netherlands. But then with the rise of Protestantism, the Spanish sends round the Spanish Inquisition. So the Inquisition is basically the Spanish who stamp out Protestantism very aggressively. This is executions, burning at the stake for heretics. And this is what they go to do in the Netherlands. So this sets the scene. So Philip, again, he decides to reorganize the government and church. The Spanish Inquisition goes to the Netherlands, and both Catholics and Protestants in the Netherlands unite. You might ask, why are the Catholics doing this? Well, the Catholics in the Netherlands, yes, they're Catholic, but it's all about autonomy in the Netherlands. They don't like this interference from Spain. So this leads to the Dutch Revolt in 1566. Now, Philip sends the Duke of Alba. So there's three main dukes we'll look at. Four actually, it's quite a few. But this is the first one, the Duke of Alba. He lands with an army of 10,000. Sorry, I should have edited that. 10,000 men, not 100,000. So make sure you make a note of that. To the Netherlands. They put down the revolt in 1568. So Alba crushes it. He establishes the Council of Troubles, nicknamed the Council of Blood, because this enforces Catholicism and allegiance to the Spanish crown. It's very aggressive, executing a lot of Protestants. This is going to have a huge impact. That is basically the first section of the Dutch Revolt. For our connection to England, we're going to have a look at the impact of it. Remember, 10,000 men close to England is threatening, and we're going to have a look at that disaster towards the Protestants. Right, so Elizabeth is concerned. This is now 10,000 men, an army of 10,000 right across from England. Beforehand, Spain would have a long way to travel to invade England. Now it's very close. She really doesn't want war. This is very nervous times for Elizabeth. Now we know that some Dutch rebels, they flee to the water. They are the sea beggars, so they flee to their ships and they attack Spanish ships that are carrying resources to Alba's army. Elizabeth actually allows them shelter in England as well. So when you're looking at that, think about the decline in Anglo-Spanish relations. This is something else that Philip is going to be angry at. In 1568, Spanish ships carrying gold paid troops took refuge in English ports. So this is the Genoese loan. Elizabeth just kind of takes this for herself. Again, very important because it means the Spanish troops aren't getting paid, and also Elizabeth is upsetting Philip here. She is taking that gold for herself. So think Anglo-Spanish relations on the decline. These two are very serious points. I wouldn't do a paragraph on my own from each of them. I would use them together. That was just a map of Genoa and the route for the loan. Okay, so Philip is. Let's have a look at the context. That's the first part of the Dutch Revolt and how it impacts England. Philip is totally against Elizabeth's religious settlement. Spain and England used to be allies under Mary Tudor because Mary was married to Philip, but Elizabeth rejected that marriage proposal when Mary was dying, and Philip has been really after England ever since. But she's keeping herself alive because Spain and France compete against each other. So they're always going to want to keep this power balanced. So each of them wanted England as an ally against the other. Now, from 67, The Spanish ships are going to the Netherlands with resources and troops for the Duke of Alba's army, and this is a brutal campaign to stamp out Protestantism. And Elizabeth Privy Councillors, they really want Elizabeth to help out these Protestants. She is seen as the leader of the Protestant religion at this point, because England is the most powerful Protestant nation. Yes, I know it's a religious settlement, middle way, but it's essentially Protestantism with a sprinkle of Catholicism. So Elizabeth, but she's very wary of taking this fight, because it's one she really would struggle to win. Spain are just the biggest power in the world, so Elizabeth doesn't want an all-out war. So she's thinking what to do to avoid war. Can't take direct action, but she's going to play a subtle, clever game, which is what she does throughout. So what does Elizabeth do? Well, she wants to apply pressure by, she really wants Spain to release Netherlands, because she thinks that will be a good ally for her, especially if it's Protestant. So really her goal is for Spain to lose sovereignty, that's control of the Netherlands. So Elizabeth, she helps the Protestants resist the Spanish, by helping out the sea beggars, for example, taking the Genoese loan. She, again, allows her privateers to attack the Spanish ships, which we'll look at with Drake. She pursues friendly relations with France and encourages others to fight the Spanish in the Netherlands as well. She does this with the Duke of Alencon, which is going to be more important later on. And basically, she wants to scare Philip into giving the Dutch back, giving its freedom back. So that's her plan. She needs to be careful, and I'll talk about this more when Alencon gets involved. She needs to be careful with the French involvement, because she doesn't want the French to be powerful as well. So that was the first part. So to sum up the first part of the Dutch Revolt, 66 to 68, you're looking at Spanish Inquisition, Duke of Alba, Council of Blood, which is the Council of Troubles, and Sea Beggars and Genoese Loan. Then we've got the second part, and it starts with the Spanish Fury. Don't confuse this with the Genoese Loan, right? This happens, 8 years after the Genoese Loan, the Spanish Fury. So Spanish forces are frustrated that they haven't been paid, not because of the Genoese Loan, but because of Drake's attacking the gold ships in the Americas. So that's having a massive impact, and that's how you can connect these themes as well. So the Spanish troops start rampaging over Antwerp, which is a city in the Netherlands, and they destroy the city in 1576. This leads to the second part of the Dutch Revolt, where they unite against the Spanish. Now, very quickly, the Spanish kind of give into it a little bit, because the pacification of Ghent is drawn up. So the Dutch rebels draw this up, they give it to the Spanish and say, you need to get out the Netherlands, and we want political freedom, right? That means they can rule themselves, basically. It's great for Elizabeth. And end religious persecution, get rid of this Inquisition. So Philip's brother, Don Juan, he goes round. Elizabeth has sent 100 grand to the Dutch rebels to basically help them out and support them, because she thinks this pacification of Ghent is fantastic for me. It will leave a great ally in the Netherlands. So Don Juan arrives and basically just agrees to everything. Elizabeth is overjoyed. This is exactly what she wants. However, 6 months later, Philip sends a new army to attack the Dutch. He's not happy with this, and he wants to crush the Dutch and put them back into their place. Elizabeth, she misses this opportunity, so she hires a mercenary, John Casimir, and gives him some money. So these are 6,000 English and Scottish volunteers. Remember, they are not flying the British flag, because this is Elizabeth indirectly getting involved. So they're not flying the British flag. They are mercenaries. So not officially ascending an army, because that would be war. But it backfires. Casimir, they attack the Catholic churches, and this leads to the Dutch Catholics making a peace with Spain and really cutting the power of the Dutch Revolt in half. This is where the Privy Councillors are saying, right, we need to get involved now. We need to make sure this pacification of Ghent is really enforced. But it's still okay for Elizabeth. The John Casimir mercenary stuff has backfired, but they can still achieve it. And again, independent Netherlands will be important. But she hesitates. So the Dutch go to the Duke of Alencon. So Duke of Alencon starts getting involved. He's a French prince. But the Duke of Parma then is sent. So Philip II sends Duke of Parma, who's far better than Don Juan, and he starts turning the tables. He starts pushing back against the Dutch. And between 1580 and 84, that Spain are on the ascendancy, sorry. So Philip actually gains Portugal in a personal union. That means Portugal's empire becomes Spanish. So Spain all of a sudden just massively increase their power. This alarms Elizabeth. She really needs the Netherlands now. The Duke of Alençon comes to England and Elizabeth supports him with money, but he returns and fails in the Netherlands. So 84 is really the worst year because Duke of Alençon dies, one of the main commanders attacking the Spanish. Then William of Orange, don't worry about him, but he was the leader of the Dutch Protestants. He's killed. So all the rebel leaders are being killed. Elizabeth still needs to be careful up until this point. And think about how we connect topics. Like we looked at the Throckmorton plot in 1583, which was the French getting involved, and a year later the Treaty of Joinville signed. So French Catholic League, they sign with Philip to basically support them against the French Protestants. So the French are having this wars of religion thing, which is basically France is getting split into Catholics and Protestants fighting each other. And Philip promises to help them out significantly. This is it's not a direct alliance, but it means France and Spain are on friendly terms. Big problem to Elizabeth. That means, right, there's nothing stopping the Spanish attacking her now. So this effectively means they're joined together against Protestantism. Elizabeth, she can't afford to do this whole indirect thing now. She has to be proactive. She has to take a stance. So I'll look at the Treaty of Nonsuch next time. So it'll lead to the Treaty of Nonsuch in 1585, which is Elizabeth directly getting involved. Okay, but that's the second part. Remember, pay attention to things like the first section, the second section. Okay, I'm gonna send some questions to link to this. All right, it's a lot of content. So again, little by little, guys. All right, thank you.